So once again, really want to welcome and thank all of you for joining in today. Those of you who are attending this session for the first time, my name is Kapil Nakran, one of the co-founders of Digital Vidya. Today we have a very interesting session for all of you. The topic of today's session is App Marketing 101. To lead this session, we have with us Binay Tiwari. Binay is a internet marketing evangelist. In fact, sometime back till about very recently, he was serving as a director global marketing and product with vServe, and he has been a speaker and panelist in more than a dozen conferences, and also been a part of advisory board member in number of events. So really, I'm really delighted and excited to have Binay with us. I think probably the best person who can talk on this subject. What we are going to do in today's session, I'll just briefly create with all of you. In today's session, we'll first of all have a bird eye view on what's happening in the app space, and then we will really go a little deeper into the app marketing, which means we'll look into how app distribution works, key services you can integrate in your app to maximize marketing, how to do app store optimization. I think not many people know about it. How to leverage paid media to boost downloads, and which is the right cost model for app marketing. Is it cost per CPM, cost per milli, cost per click, cost per install, or cost per acquisition? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about tracking user quality beyond the install. What are the ways to do it? Retargeting app users to engage and retain them. And we'll try to demystify some of the key terms that are being used, key jargons that's been used in the app marketing space. So just to create the logistics before I hand it over to Binay, all of you are by default muted. At any time, if you have any question, please type it down in the question panel. And we'll take a question in between also, and we'll have a presentation for about another 35-40 minutes. And after that, we'll have 20 minutes of Q&A. That's it from my side. Binay, you can start the session now.
Okay, thanks Kapil for the introduction. Let me pull up my screen. Kapil, I hope this is visible.
Yeah, you can just start the presentation slideshow.
So let's start with the session. Okay, so let's start with the session. The session is App Marketing 101, and essentially going to give you an overview about today the app economy is super competitive. There are over 1 million apps available on Google Play Store and Apple App Store, and this number is obviously only increasing. And as a marketer or a company who's created an app, you're one among these million, and therefore app marketing or marketing your app is critical to succeed. Just because you have an app that is put on the App Store is not going to lead to success. It's the same way as you have a product that's put out in the superstore on a particular shelf, and unless you market it, nobody's going to come and pick it up. So let's look at the very broad overview. If you look at it from an overview perspective, essentially you have potential users who could be using your app, who you want to use your app. That's one aspect. And the other is that you have your app listed on the App Store, and I'm going to just call that page on the App Store. So this is your page listing where your app is listed. And then you have the stage where these users have now got the app, and now it's on their device. And the objective of app marketing is to maximize each of these. So maximize the number of potential users by generating interest in them. maximizing your conversion from that interest to installing when somebody comes to the App Store, and maximizing the usage once the app has been installed on the device. So maximizing people who are coming to get you, who want your app and know about your app and are interested in your app. Once somebody comes to the App Store, maximizing that conversion, converting that interest into an install of your app. And the third is, once he has the app, how do you keep maximizing the usage of that app? So let's get into the first one, which is your page on the App Store. Now, if you look at your page on the App Store today, it's really the moment of truth. Somebody's come to get your app. He might have got to know about it from various sources, but ultimately he comes to this one place where he's going to decide whether he wants your app or not. And there are a couple of components here. One is your app itself, and how great that app is. While I'll not talk about the functionality, etc. of the app, that's something that varies from app to app. But essentially, before you put your app over here, there are a couple of things that you should be cognizant of. There are a couple of key services that you should enable on it. So that's one aspect. The other is the visual assets on this page. So, for example, there is a video or some screenshots. These are all the icon of the app. All of these go towards helping somebody decide whether he wants to get your app or not. The last aspect on this page is the text and other elements, so such as the description, the title text, what are the rating and reviews on this page. All of these things essentially help somebody decide whether he's going to hit that install button or not. And let's look at each of these in a fair bit of detail. So step 0, and I call it step 0 is because this is even before you put it out on the App Store. When you have, developer has made the app, there are a couple of things that you as an app marketer should start worrying about immediately. The first is that once when you put in this app on the App Store and it starts to get downloaded and installed on devices, you want to measure how those installs are happening. Where are those installs coming from? Are they coming from a blog? Are they coming from the App Store itself? Are they coming from a paid campaign that you're running? So install tracking is one key thing that you should enable. The other is just usage analytics, saying what is the average session time, how many people are active on your app. All of those things are very important to measure, and therefore putting in these SDKs for install tracking, usage analytics, etc. Is critical. The other thing that you need to worry about before you put your app on the App Store is that given that there are a lot of various devices, different screen sizes, different OS versions, your app might crash on a lot of those things. You won't be able to test for everything in-house. And when you put the app out, even though you've tried to attain a great quality, you want to make sure that if the app is crashing or if there are any bugs, you get to know about it proactively. You're not waiting for customers to come and tell you that. So integrating a bug tracking SDK and performance SDK is the second thing. Apart from this, the other way you want to make sure that you get the voice of the customer is that as somebody's had a good experience on your app. So for example, if it is say a calling app or somebody has had a successful call, suppose it's Skype and somebody's had a great call, you want to channel that positive feedback as ratings. You want to tell users to come and rate you on the App Store. And the only way to do it, given that the user is just using his device, is to actually put a prompt over there. So channeling that prompt for rating, and we'll talk a bit more about that, but getting that SDK in before you put the app out is again important. And the last thing that you want to make sure that you have inside the app is things like push notifications and deep linking, and we'll talk about both of these ahead, but essentially ways to connect with the user, re-engage him as he's using the app or not using the app on the device. So that's step 0, integrating key services. The next is that when somebody comes to the App Store, don't expect them to read. If you have a lot of stuff over there, don't expect them to go through each feature and figure out what your app is all about. you really have to show him. And the best way to show him is actually by putting a video there. That video might be a a teaser kind of trailer video, or it might even be a demo or explainer video, which quickly explains in under a minute what your app is all about. Both the App Store, Google Play Store, as well as Apple App Store, provide places to for you to show your screenshots. Again, in these screenshots, if you just show just the screen, it will not necessarily help the user understand what that particular screen is and why you should care about it. So when you are putting out screenshots of your app, make sure that you have put in put some title, put some text around it, which helps somebody understand the various functionality of the app. So put an image plus explanation text. And the last thing with screenshots is that don't forget to put your tablet screenshots or your tablet layout screenshots. If you don't put in your tablet screenshots, Google Play, for example, assumes that this app is not optimized for tablets, and therefore will not show it to users who are coming from tablets. Even if your app is not necessarily fully optimized for tablets, make sure that you're putting in those screenshots of the 7-inch and 10-inch layouts. The next is the app description. And the key thing over here is that while it needs to be simple, it also needs to show your credibility. When you look at your description, it needs to pitch very effectively. Now you have a title which is only about 100 characters. That's the first thing the user sees. He doesn't see all of the text below. He sees that later only when he is interested after reading the initial text and seeing some of the images. Therefore, that title is very important, as well as your description should very simply put out what the app does and who is it intended for, who's intended audience for it. So those are two things that go in the description. The other thing that the description should have, today users are very concerned about privacy, and a lot of the permissions that are taken in the app, such as discover accounts or location, these are things that the user worries about. And he's thinking about, why does this app need this particular permission? So as a marketer, it's your duty to tell the user about what are the permissions that are used and explain why you need those permissions. Explain it in a non-technical way. If it is things like locations, make sure that you talk about functionality within the app that is using it, and that you're not just using it for ads or for collecting data. And also any other credibility, such as this is the #1 app for something, or it has how many millions of users it has, or it has received some awards. Those are other things that you should put out to gain that credibility and trust. The other thing that the description should have, and we'll talk more about this in the App Store optimization part, but essentially blend in keywords. When somebody is looking for an app, he may not be looking for exactly your app, may not know the name of your app. He might be looking for either competition. So if I'm Skype, my users might be looking for WeChat or Line or any of the other applications. And also they might be searching for things like chat app or video calls or free calls. And those are all things that you should blend into your description. You should not put them out as just keywords. Doing that will get you banned for sure. But if you put in words like, or put in a line like, this app is better than app A, app B, app C, and this app helps you do these XYZ functionalities, those are all ways in which you can blend the keywords into the app description itself. The next thing that the user looks for on this app Store page of yours is the ratings. And the ratings are really similar to how you have word of mouth in the real world. And these can really make or break your app. People are looking for what are other people talking about. And the best way is to say, look at what is the rating other people have given this app. If you've got a lot of 1-star ratings, be sure that somebody is going to come to your App Store page, look at all of these 1-star ratings or the low rating overall, and not download your app. Whereas if you have great ratings, somebody is much more likely to get the app because he sees quality. And while for ratings, there are a couple of things that you can do over there. The first is that if you are channel that positive energy or negative energy in the right directions. If somebody has a positive experience, prompt him for a rating. If somebody is getting bugs and needs to give feedback, make sure that you have a place in your app itself where somebody can give you feedback and reach out to you for support. You should not look at the reviews and rating place as the place to reach out to you for support. Also, when somebody puts in reviews, actively respond to them. It's the same way as when a lot of you look at social media, and when somebody puts a comment out over there, make sure that you're conversing back. And also set up a email help desk. Most app stores pages have a mandatory place for putting in your email address and saying that if somebody needs to contact you, where should you do that. Make sure that help desk is set up and manned and somebody responds actively to that. The other thing is that the ratings that somebody sees to begin with are not always the same. You as a user on your device might see different reviews. The initial three, while the overall rating is the same, the reviews that you see versus I would say could be completely different. And the reason for that is that essentially the ratings are ordered, or the reviews are ordered in terms of helpfulness, or the fact that somebody is a friend of mine has reviewed this app. So those are things that again determine what are the first three reviews that somebody sees of your app. And therefore, it's very important to leverage Google Plus and get people to +1 your app, and have a community on Google Plus as well. The next is we're going to talk about how to reach more and more potential users. Reaching potential users for your app can happen essentially in three places. One is your own media, which is things like your website and your blog and other offline collaterals of yours, things that you own. The other is earned media, where it might be social media or even publications or PR or news stories that you have done. And the third is paid media, where you're actively paying to get in front of users, show your ad for the app to users as they browse other apps and sites. And let's look at each one of these in detail. So the first thing, before you kind of look at doing your own leveraging your own media, is to make sure that you have a smart link of your app. Now, what I mean by smart link over here is that it's a simple link that if somebody puts in a browser, whether he's on a desktop or on a mobile device, it will automatically figure out which is he, is he on the PC or on mobile. If he's on the mobile, which operating system is he on, and accordingly take him to the right app store. So you don't have to put in different URLs for the app store, different app stores, and it becomes one simple URL that is short and simple, easy to remember, which you can use on various offline collaterals, and even as a signature, etc., where somebody can go and get your app, and no matter where he's clicking on that URL, that link from, whether it's desktop or mobile, it automatically gets redirected to the right place. So this is something that you should work to first create, and then start looking at all of your own media or your customer touch points. This is a great way to reach out to your existing base. If you're a business that already has users, whether it's a digital business or an offline business, make sure that when people are coming to your website, there's a prominent place in the header where you're talking about your, announcing that you've put in launcher apps. You put a blog post which talks about the app and its functionality and how it's making life easy for your customers. If you send out newsletters and mailers to your customers, again, that's another place that you should leverage to let your customers know about your app. The other is when you actually have a mobile site already. So say, for example, you are LinkedIn and somebody's coming to your mobile site. Make sure that you'd have seen that LinkedIn prompts you to download the app as well. And that's another great place. The user is already on a mobile device. You know whether it is an Android device or an iOS device or a third kind of OS which you don't have an app for. Based on that, you can intelligently prompt him to download the app. The other place is, especially if you have offline presence, so if you're, for example, ICICI Bank or a retail chain like Roma, these are again places where you want to be able to talk about or reach your consumers and tell them about your app, whether it's the store or the when somebody calls into your helpline, or it's a bill or brochure or any other offline collateral. So leverage your existing customer touchpoints. These are your own media, and make sure that users, your existing users, at least know about the fact that you have an app, and that they will have a better experience on that app if they get it. The next is that leveraging, the social media or earned media, and a lot of sites today have app reviews. There are a lot of blogs dedicated for that. Lot of app roundups. As there are a lot of apps and games, for example, coming up, people are reviewing apps, giving their in-depth comparison between various apps, and those are all places that you want to make sure that your app is being talked about. Your competition is definitely going to be there. You want to make sure that even your app is talked about in those blogs, in those app discovery sites. And the first step actually to make sure that you do this outreach is to actually have a press kit. For a lot of guys who are digital only folks, that press kit or app only folks, that the press kit may be a bit of an alien term, but essentially it's a very simple set of things which has your app logo, your description of your app, how do you want somebody to describe your app, any videos or demos of the app that you might have, and obviously screenshots as well. So this becomes a very easy set of resources that somebody can use as they're writing about your app, as they're talking about your app, and this goes a long way to standardize what people are using to describe your app and to talk about your app. Also, if your app is doing something unique, it's solving a unique problem, or it's the first to do some kind of functionality, then leveraging the broader news publications also makes a lot of sense. For example, if it's an app that is helping women in distress, obviously there were stories about that. If there was an app that helps your child with something, those are all, you'll find plenty of publications that cover these kind of stories, and making sure that your app is again talked about over there goes a long way in the awareness of people about your app. The other aspect is when somebody is already in the App Store and he is searching for apps that are doing a certain type of functionality, or he's one of your competition, then making sure that your app is getting shown over there as well. So this App Store optimization is the new SEO in the app space. Essentially over here, I talked about how using your description to talk about functionality as well as competition keywords can help you appear in these search results as people are searching for apps with a certain type of functionality or of your competition. Also, making sure that you are listed in the right category. App stores have various categories, and making sure that you're in the right category can help you get a higher ranking in those search results. The search results, it's the same way how you have on, say, Google, where results that are up, higher up and on the first page are more likely to get traffic versus ones that are lower. Also, things like your uninstall rate, how many people are uninstalling your app after installing it, those are all things that contribute towards higher ranking in the search results itself. The other thing is that when somebody is seeing this list of search results, what he's going to see essentially is just an app icon and your title and the rating. These are the three things that will make or break, or essentially entice somebody to tap on your listing or your app versus something else. So making a great first impression over there is critical. Making sure that your icon and your title is also in some form clear about what is the functionality of this app. So for example, if it's ClearTrip, it doesn't say ClearTrip, it will say airline tickets, train tickets, PNR, etc., hotels. It will put in some of those other keywords in the app title itself, or in the name of the app itself. So again, those are things that help you with getting more and more users who are already in the App Store, who may not have seen and heard of you before, but now, and as they're searching for things in the App Store, discover your app and come and download it. The other thing that happens in App Stores is that you end up having a page which is talking about the latest apps or featured apps by the App Store curators, or top apps, or top new apps, or top grossing apps, trending apps. All of these various lists and charts that the user uses to find new apps. And the first thing is to make sure that you reach out. If you reach out to the curators of the App Store itself, telling them what is unique about your app, demonstrate what is unique, and if they choose to feature your app, it can give you extremely powerful free downloads and visibility. It's definitely something that is worth a shot, especially if your app is doing something unique. The other aspect is when you're in the charts. Most of the times, people worry about how do I get into those charts, and one way in which, at least one parameter that these charts and lists use for ranking your app is the number of downloads. The total number of downloads, as well as the downloads that have happened in the past, X number of days or hours. And how well your app is rated. All of these things contribute to the ranking. And one of those things, which is downloads, you can influence by using paid media as well. It is not always the ranking is a function of multiple things, but downloads is one of the key things. And on iOS, it tends to be more a bigger parameter than on Google Play, but look at paid downloads to help you give that boost of downloads that gets you up into the rankings. And once you get into the rankings, people will organically discover you and download apps, your app from there, which is essentially free installs. So that's one of the reasons people do paid downloads as well. But once you're on the app, on one of these charts, the big tend to become bigger. So especially a lot of the charts which are just the top apps, top new, unless it's the new or the trending one, most of them seem to be fairly stable. And once you're there, those guys become essentially bigger. So when you're looking at paid media, essentially what you're looking at is reaching users as they are browsing other sites and using other apps or playing other games. And so step one is, somebody sees an ad while he's in another app. So I'm playing a game, I'll see an ad for your app. And that situation is usually called the ad impression, or when an ad is shown to the user. The user may or may not have actually seen that ad. The ad might be below the scrollable area, or the user might just not have seen it. But essentially, the fact that an ad is served over there and shown, it counts as an ad impression. It's fairly similar to how it's on the web, where the page loads and there's an ad over there. You may or may not have seen it, but it counts as an ad impression. So we'll talk about some of this term ahead. The second is when somebody sees that ad and chooses to tap on it or click on it. That stage is called a click. And now when somebody clicks or taps on it, he's taken to the destination that the advertiser wants. In cases of app install campaigns, it's usually the App Store page that we talked about earlier. So he comes to your App Store page where he's seeing now your video, your screenshot, your description, and the ratings, etc. The user over there, evaluates and decides whether he wants to install the app or not. Once he chooses to install that app, the app gets installed on his device, and however, you will come to know that the app has got successfully installed only once he launches the app. So when you get an install or the industry metric for install, it is actually somebody has installed the app and opened it for the first time. That's when it gets counted. So let's look at some of the metrics that matter over here. The first one obviously is ad impressions. That's the number of times your ad was shown. This helps you get a sense of, it can give you a sense of the reach as well as the frequency at which ads are being shown, and just the sheer volume of times somebody has seen an ad for your app. The next metric is clicks or taps. This is the number of times somebody's clicked on your ad or tapped on your ad, and this is usually measured as the click-through rate. So your clicks divided by your impression, that gives you a sense of how relevant, how prominent is the placement, as well as how relevant the ad is to the user. A higher CTR obviously shows it's more relevant and more prominently shown to him. A lower CTR typically means it may not be either relevant or might not be seen by the user sufficiently. The advertiser pays for these ads in essentially three broad ways. The first is that he's just paying to show the ad to the user. This is typically called CPM, or cost per 1,000 impressions. Essentially 1,000 impressions. And over here, the advertiser is going to pay, irrespective of whether somebody clicks on it or not, or installs it or not. Just by showing the ad, somebody's going to pay that amount. The second payment model for advertisers is cost per click. That's when the advertiser pays only when the user clicks on it. He might have seen the ads 100 times, but he's going to ultimately pay only when the advertiser is going to pay only when the user actually clicks on the ad. This is takes away the risk of that placement and relevancy from the advertiser over to the person who is managing or the ad exchange or the ad network who's managing this, and therefore the onus for relevancy as well as prominence comes over to the ad network, and the advertiser pays only for the click. Over here again, the user might be clicking on the ad, but he may or may not install the app ultimately, and that's where a third model also comes in, which is cost per install. So you as advertiser can choose to pay only when somebody actually installs your app, irrespective of how many times the ad was shown or how many times it was clicked or not. None of that really changes your cost. You ultimately paying only when somebody installs your app. A lot of people, so before we go ahead, just what app install tracking does, and I talked about how an install is tracked. Usually the install is counted only when the user actually installs the app as well as then launches it. Apps that are launched or opened by the user in the next, after 24 to 48 hours after your ad was shown, typically get counted under this. So if you're an advertiser, you might see that after a day or so, and you're paying on cost per install, your cost for installs might have increased for the previous day. And given if you're using paid media, it is always advisable to at least use some independent way to track the app installs. Obviously, the Google Play Store or the App Store obviously shows you the total number of downloads. But what you really need is to be able to see which traffic source or which paid media is converting how well. So you want to see app installs by each of those various media, and therefore you typically want to use an independent app tracking service. Um, users, the way users are tracked for install and for a lot of the other advertising today is no longer based on the device ID. It is now a temporary device ID that is created exclusively for advertising use. On iOS, that's called the Identifier for Advertisers, the IDFA, and on Android, it's called the Advertiser ID. And these are typically used in the app tracking or app install tracking services as well. So when you're looking at now doing mobile advertising or showing your ads to users, there are two broad forms of that. The first is, as it's called, organic or display advertising, where the user will be shown your ad, the ad for your app, and there is no other incentive or reward for it. If he likes it or is interested in it, he might choose to click on it and go and install the app. But if he's not, he can just simply ignore it, and there is no other anything else that is pushing him towards clicking on those ads or installing those apps. Whereas the other form, which is incentivized advertising, typically has a very clear reward given to the user for doing a certain action. In your case, it might be installing that app. So if you might say, install this app and get free credits or free free coins or something like that within the app. This is usually used within games or any other app that has some in-app virtual currency, but it can be used even in apps outside of that. Today, for example, a lot of the incentivized ads are for getting talk time, or saying that install this app and get so much talk time from your postpaid bill. And these type of ads, while they end up being cheaper at times on a cost per install basis, but over here there's a trade-off between the user might just install the app and then uninstall it right after, because he really got it only for the reward and not because he's genuinely interested in your app. But it has its uses a lot of times for getting a high volume of traffic or high volume of installs. Incentivized ads are also used. The next thing when you're looking at ads is the various types of ads, the form factors. It might be banner ads. These are typically small strips. As you can see on this screen, at the bottom there is a small strip banner ad. The typical CTR on this is amongst the lowest because it's not shown very prominently to the user. Whereas the next one, which is interstitials, these are typically full screen ads, which cover, take over the entire screen of the app and show the ad to the user. These end up getting obviously much more attention, as well as therefore the click-through rates are higher on this as well. And the last one is where the ad is almost a part of the content itself. It almost looks and feels like the other content on the app itself, and therefore it feels less intrusive or less disruptive, at least. People are less annoyed by these type of ads, and therefore they might also end up engaging more with them because it feels like content. The simplest way to look at native ads is how in the newspaper you have advertorials, where it looks almost like a newspaper article, but it really is an ad. Similarly, on Facebook, promoted posts, etc., is an example of native ads. These type of ads are great if you're looking at performance and engagement of the user. If they're very intensive branding need to your campaign, this can be a bit more or a bit less useful compared to other banner or interstitial ad formats. So the next is to, when you're looking to reach users via this paid media, optimizing that campaign optimizing who are the users that you end up reaching. That's very important. For example, if you go out to advertise your app and you put just all Android users in India, there will end up being a lot of people who might not be relevant users or relevant audience for your app. So getting the right target audience is very important. Obviously, things like demographics and their interests are now available for using as targeting. Facebook, all of the parameters that Facebook offers to advertisers on Facebook network itself is now available on third-party apps. Also, when you're looking at one of the most important ones, which end up wasting a lot of money, is the OS version or the device model. If your app is not compliant with a certain OS version, which is old, or certain device models which are not compatible, you want to make sure that you remove these from your targeting. So users of those devices and that version of the OS don't end up seeing your ads and clicking on it and wasting your money. The other aspect is obviously also there are tons of more targeting options available on mobile, and whether it is things like location or time of the day. So, for example, if you are a retail chain based in Bombay, you want to make sure that you want to show ads only in Bombay and not the rest of India, and so on. The right way of looking at your cost is to always, irrespective of whether you're paying on CPM or you're paying on CPC or for the clicks or even for the install, look at your estimated cost per install and the cost of user acquisition. Have a goal in your mind that this is how much you are willing to spend to acquire a user. That obviously is based on how much how much is that user valuable, how much value does that user provide to you. And now work backwards from this goal and essentially look at traffic that is giving you a higher cost per install than your goal, and start blocking off that traffic. It might be from some specific apps, for example, which might be getting a lot of clicks but not enough installs, or it might be from ad formats that are not convincing the user effectively. A lot of app advertisers have started now showing a video of the app right when they show the ad, so it gets the user to know about the app and understand its functionality, get a interesting trailer or teaser for it, and now his intent for installing the app actually is much higher. And now they after that take the user to the app store. So before the user is distracted with the ratings and other things on the App Store, show him a video of the app itself, and that helps you get a better install intent. Also, always make sure that you're using multiple media sources. Even if you're using networks, use multiple networks, various app discovery platforms. All of them will have various level of competition from other advertisers. They might have various different supply available to them. They might have different partners available to them, and each of them ends up giving you something unique. Make sure you at least try various ones before you stick to one. And a great way of doing that is by actually using a demand-side platform which has real-time bidding on it. So it's for one place from where you can set up your campaign, run it on multiple sources, bid in real time for those different sources, so that you get the best value for the money that you're spending, and it automatically optimizes your bids for your goal as well, for your target cost per install. Last one is once the user has the app on his device, how do you maximize usage of that? And as a marketer, you want to make sure that you're measuring everything. What is the user using? How is he using it? What are the activity levels? Understanding the users, what are the functionalities of your app that they're using most? It might help you improve the app in the future. Figure out which demographics are using, using your app, and you want to talk to them differently. So these are the measuring and profiling the user are the first two steps before you start engaging the user or re-engaging the user using things like push notifications or retargeting ads. So the first one is usage analytics. Having a pulse of who your app users are and when are they using it. Things like when did the first launch of the app happen, how frequently are they using the app, what is the average duration for the time which they use the app. If they are uninstalling your app, were they users that were coming from a certain traffic source or a certain place, such as say incentivized or somebody who is getting a lot of bugs or his app is crashing. So those are things that you want to measure. You also want to measure your active users in terms of your monthly active users as well as your daily active users, and also set up goals and funnels within your app, saying that when a user comes in, if say Flipkart, searching for the products, browsing through products, and then ultimately ordering the product, that would be one full funnel, and they want to track where the user is in that funnel and what are the points where they're dropping off. Push notifications can act as a very interesting one-to-one way to reach users. If somebody is not using your app, or you want to re-engage them, or just provide them with updated information about the app, or updated functionality of the app, or an updated offer, this acts as a great way to reach those users. You can customize the set. You don't need to send the push notification to all of the users. You can choose to send it to a certain subset of it, who might not have been using it of late, or who have been using it, and you want to promote a new feature to them. So it's a great way to re-engage those users, but at the same time, it's very important to be careful to not spam the user, not send multiple push messages. Otherwise, the user will just uninstall your app or block notifications from your app, in which case you lose this channel to talk to the user. The other aspect about when you have your app is that making sure that you have deep linking in place. Now, what deep linking essentially means is that somebody is should be able to reach a section or functionality within your app, and not just the home page or the launch page of your app. So, for example, if it is ClearTrip and somebody is wanting to buy a ticket, if ClearTrip, one is obviously he comes to the ClearTrip homepage, or the ClearTrip app, opens the app, types in the destinations, and then clicks search. But if he was coming in from a place where he already knew that he was traveling between Bombay to Delhi and on a certain date, then the app should be able to pick up those parameters, do the search, and then show the search result page or the flight options page directly to the user. This is known as deep linking, being able to take the user to a certain subsection of your app, and now the user can be coming over here from another app. He might be coming in from mobile web, or from a search on the mobile web, or from any number of places, or even from a push notification. But the key thing is being able to take him deep inside your app so that he's getting to the exact functionality that he wants, and not getting lost at the home page. The other thing is that when you're looking at users who you need to re-engage and reacquire, people who either uninstall your app, you can reach these users through retargeting ads based on the device ID, your advertiser ID. You can set up campaigns to show only those users a campaign for a special reward or benefit to re-download your app, or to re-engage within the app. So if the user has the app, your deep linking should be able to open it in the right place. And if the user does not have the app, take him to the App Store to install it. Or if you have a mobile site and the user so chooses, he can go to the mobile site. So figuring out whether the user has the app or not. If he has the app, then taking him to the right section within it. If he doesn't have the app, giving him the choice to go to the App Store to download it, or to the mobile site. Those are all things that your deep linking should be able to manage and to help engage the user. So that's it. I have I hope we have time for questions now. And
Great, Binay. Thanks a lot for very, very informative session. I mean, I've personally got to know a lot, many new things. So, guys, we are open for questions now. You can start typing your questions. So while you're doing it, I have a couple of questions for you, Binay. One of the thing is you talked about, and this is a little technical question. How to get come in the featured apps or the new app category, wherein one of the parameter was downloads, right? And so, if I'm launching a new app, is it a good strategy to invest a lot in paid media in the initial stage to increase the number of downloads? Does that really count? Or what exactly do you suggest when I'm launching something new as a launch strategy? Can I do something so that I can stay in the feature or the top apps category for a long enough period?
sure. So Google Play has a section called Top New Apps, and that is essentially apps that have got launched in the past 30 days and are seeing significant traction. So as you launch your app and you also set up campaigns for paid media and all of your other ways of getting downloads as well, and your app starts to see that initial boost of downloads, the likelihood of coming up in that top new apps list is fairly high, because over there you will not end up being competing with some of the biggest names. So you won't have like the Facebook app over there, the Pinterest app over there. These are all apps that have got launched in the last 30 days. So you're competing with a much smaller set. And if you give your app a boost via paid media, the chances of coming into that list is high. But the key thing is, before you spend any money, make sure that your app is bug free, and those early teething problems are solved. A lot of times people put it up and start spending right away. It's important to uh, do a beta outside of the Play Store even, and solve some of those early teething problems before you spend money.
Okay, great. So there are a lot of questions popping up now. So I'll take up them one by one. Kaushal has a question: is it a good strategy to make it free, or I mean, overall, if someone has a paid app, do you recommend that you should have a free version also? It just increases the chances, or is just going ahead with the paid version is also good? By Kaushal Shah.
So the first part actually, and I should have put it as a caveat the majority of what I talked about is actually for free apps, because a very important thing is the pricing of your app, which comes under app marketing, but really uh, it needs a lot more figuring out than it's not as simple as just saying price your app at 99 cents. So most of what I talked was about free apps. If you have a paid app, obviously you should have a free version of your app. Apps are ultimately digital goods. Your incremental cost per user is zero once you have made the app, or very minimal if there's some server side cost. But making sure that you have a free version which the users can try out, use your app and figure out if it's worth paying for is very critical. So if you have a paid version of the app, make sure that you have a trial version at the bare minimum, or preferably a light version which is supported by advertising or any other form of monetizing, so that users, irrespective of whether they can pay or not, are able to use our app. And if some of them choose to upgrade, they can do that within the app itself. So it's important to have both versions. Um, Usually the free version can have in-app purchases, or at least a trial version of the app.
Great. Guys, there are a lot of questions that are coming up. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to take up all of them or not. Uh, yeah, by the way, one more question, Binay, is if you release a new version, is it counted as new, or is it like, or that doesn't feature in the new app category?
No, the new version doesn't
Doesn't
feature
count.
in the new category.
Great.
It needs to be a new app.
Great. So there's a question from Muha and Sachin. They wanted to know about app tracking software. If there are some independent tracking sources other than the Google Play Store, are there some players in the market which can be used in there?
Sure, sure. There are plenty of them. Whether it is Apps Flyer, I think one of those logos was there on my deck. AppsFlyer is one. Mobile app tracking by Tune is another one. Most of the retargeting folks also have install tracking included. So things like Criteo and Facebook, etc., have their own tracking as well. So I can share a longer list of install services as well, but a simple Google search should be able to help you as well. Some of the key ones that I've used personally is AppsFlyer and mobile app tracking.
Okay, great. Another question from Divya Uthup. She wants to know what is the average time for an app to peak or start trending, and when should that push for an application happen? At the initial stage itself, or after a few data about the nature of the app usage comes in?
So if you're gunning to get into the top new apps, obviously that all of that your effort needs to be in those first 30 days. There's another chart on Google Play called trending apps, and trending apps is it could be for any app that is new or old that is seeing a very high volume of downloads in the past. Google doesn't specify the time, but usually it is in the past couple of days. So if you are an app that is an existing app, typically doing an update will anyhow get people to start, getting the update from. And if you do a paid campaign at that time, your chances of getting onto the top trending app are also high.
Okay, great. Guys, while I'm taking up more questions, I'm just launching this poll in front of you. In case you're interested in taking a formal course in digital marketing, you can just press yes over here. You can call it more like a commercial break. So while you're responding to that, I'm taking other questions. There's a question from Chandresh. He wants to know which is the best advertisement platform for mobile apps. Is it the AdWords or any particular ad network that you would like to recommend?
So I've actually had experience, obviously, in a lot of ad networks and ad exchanges. But my key request to anybody who's using or looking to start doing app install campaigns is that there is no one source that you should just focus on. The reason is that each of these, so for example, AdWords is a great place. So is Facebook. So are networks such as InMobi and VServe and a whole bunch of other companies as well. But the fact is that each of them have different partners where ads are shown. Each of them have different levels of competition of advertisers. Each of them have different pricing, etc., that you might be able to negotiate with. And therefore, looking at using all of these different mediums is important. Unlike offline medium or offline media, you don't have to spend crores of rupees to try things out. Trying out most of these different sources is a matter of a couple of $100 across these places, and making sure that you're trying out all these different places ensures that you end up finding out what's the place that is giving you the best and lowest cost, and the most relevant users as well.
Great. Love Mishra, you have put up, I think, in total 7 or 8 questions, and I think it would be good if I can unmute you and we can have an open conversation. So I'm just trying to unmute you and see if things are working at your end. Love, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, Love, you can ask your question now.
Uh, what would be the ballpark cost for a mobile app being made for an OTA compatible across iOS, Android, and other operating systems?
I don't think there's one cost that I can give you offhand, because it obviously depends on the functionality of the app. Even within the various OSs, what version of the OS that you're looking to um, target, what screen sizes, etc., that you're looking at doing as well. But I'll give you another, just a word of advice. The various app stores and platforms. Using a cross-platform development tool such as Unity or such as Marmalade or PhoneGap, etc., is a great way to keep the cost down to a minimum. Create one app that then gets ported into these various platforms, and helps you save cost as well as increase um, the compatibility across OSs.
And the time frame?
Time frame again depends completely on the functionality of the app and the quality of the app that you're running for. But using a cross-platform development tool always will help you shorten that cycle, development cycle as well. Probably if you have a specific example, I can connect you with somebody who can give you a better sense of development time and cost and effort.
So something probably what a clear trip is currently doing.
Sure.
Something on those lines.
So again, there is the front end of the app itself, and then there's the back end where you're connecting into a lot of things, whether it is the flight informations as well as hotel reviews, ratings, etc., and the payment gateway integrations, things like that as well. I would say an app like ClearTrip is a fair amount of complexity. It has login functionality. It has tracking all of your trips and security in terms of payment and storing credit card, etc. as well. I would say definitely north of a quarter to build an app with that kind of functionality.
And can it be multi-currency?
Apps, when you're looking at either paid apps or even in-app purchases from the app stores, they all offer multiple currencies that you can customize. Usually, ultimately, you have to define what is the amount in a certain country on the app store itself, and based on that, the users see that price in their local currency and can choose to pay that. So in-app prices as well as paid app prices both can be multi-currency. Obviously, if you're doing something within the app, such as ClearTrip, etc., obviously that is completely within your control and can be multi-currency again.
Again, how do we connect with Google Analytics in terms of analyzing our analytical details on apps?
Sure. So all of these services that I talked to you about, such as install tracking, user analytics, um, bug tracking, all of them essentially have what is known as an SDK. So they provide a piece of software as well as an integration guide, which your app developer will essentially use to integrate it into the app. So they
Hi everyone. Sorry, there was an issue at my end. Now I'm back. So guys, I think we've already exceeded by 8 minutes. Um, Vinay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, Kapil.
Great, guys. So I'm in terms of the number of questions, I think we've possibly taken all of them. Unless there is something that is really, really urgent and you really want an answer to it right now, I'm just putting down all the hands and you can just press the hand raise button now and I'll just unmute you to take the last one or two questions. Okay, there's somebody, Praveen. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody who wants to? Just a minute. I'll see if there is some. Okay. So what we'll do is, in any case, we've recorded this session, and you'll get the recording of this session very soon over email, and we'll give you the PDF as well. So if you have any question, we'll do a blog post also. You can put on your question as a comment there, and we'll try our best to give you the response. This point, really want to thank first of all Binay. It was a very, very informative session, and the whole app marketing area is something that I was not at all exposed to, and it's given me a totally new flavor, and I'm sure same would be true for a lot of you. And thank you everyone for your participation. Thanks a lot, Binay.
Thank you so much, Kapil. Thank you, everybody.
So yeah, thanks everyone. The session is closed.